Hi everyone, my name's Renee and welcome to Amid the Chaos. Well, I'm at home and I'm imagining you are at home too. So we need to fill our hours doing something, and let's do something creative. So Easter's coming up and I thought it would be really fun to make these little fabric carrots and decorate some baskets or make a banner or something, I don't know, just play with them. They are super fun to make and they don't take very long. And I used fabric scraps that I've had around my sewing area. If you don't have fabric scraps, you could use old pillowcases or old sheets or even old clothing that you don't want anymore. That being said, let's get started. I had a piece of pink fabric that I cut into a 9 by 9 inch square, and I'm using this green fabric here for the top of the carrot, and this is a 3 by 9 inch rectangle. And I'm going to put right sides to right side and put this up on the top, matching the edges, and I'm going to pin it here just so it doesn't shift on me. I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam right along here, and then I will press it open and that will be the top. So I've sewn it together and I have pressed it down towards the pink fabric, and the reason I did that was because I want to make sure that I catch this whole seam into my seam allowance. If it was open, I wouldn't catch it all and it would just sort of be flopping around. Okay, so I am going to fold it in half this way, right sides together. And the reason for that is that way you aren't flipping your fabrics back and forth. And when you cut this, you already have it, all your edges all lined up already. So I'm going to go from the fold here up to the end of where I did my stitching and cut it. Make sure I have a good cut here. All right, so now see, it's all ready for me to pin it, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to put a couple little pins in here just so it won't shift on me. And then I am going to sew it from the top here down to the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to cut off the little tip down here so that you don't have a lot of fabric in there. Don't cut your threads, just cut the fabric. The less fabric you have down here, the easier it is to have a nice little point on that. So now I'm going to turn it inside out, and I'm just going to use my dull pencil to kind of poke that point out. So I'm going to get in here and lightly hold it and just sort of poke, poke, poke. If you have a sharp pencil, it'll go through your fabric, so a dull one works better as far as I'm concerned. All right, there it's turned. And I'm going to lay it down like this, where this is running down the center. And I'm going to even this up here. Now I like the little fringes on the fabric because when you look at a carrot, it is sort of fringy and fluffy. And so I'm going to encourage that. Okay, there we are. Now the next thing we're going to do is a running stitch around this area right here. When I do things like this, I use a hand quilting thread. It's a little bit thicker than a regular thread, and I like it because it doesn't break as easily. I've also doubled it to make sure it has a lot of strength. So I'm going to start right here at the seam. It doesn't have to be up here. We're going to move it up there in a bit, but I'm going to start right there. And a running stitch is just a long stitch where you go in and out, just like that. So I'm going to do this all the way around and come back to where I started. And then we are going to stuff our fabric. And here I am back where I started, And at this point, I'm just gonna let my needle dangle like this because I don't wanna cut it off yet until it's stuffed. So now we're gonna stuff it with some fiberfill. And I just wanna use a little bit of fiberfill just to get down into the tip. So I'm gonna put it down in there, and this time, because it's a little bit bulkier and it won't go through the fiberfill, I'm just gonna gently push it down into the tip. And you can see it sort of starts getting thick down in here. And so if we had a lot more fiberfill than that, it would just get stuck. Take my needle here and I'm just going to put it in the fabric down there just for a minute, because now we are going to be cutting these little strips. So I'm going to be cutting about 1/4 inch strips. You can cut however big or little you want them, but I'm thinking 1/4 inch is good. And I'm just cutting clear down to the seam line where the green meets the pink. Yeah. Okay, now we've got our nice little fringe like that. And I'm going to push the stuffing down in here below where I want it to be eventually, just so that we can finish doing our gathering here. So I'm going to pull up on my thread now. See how nicely that gathers around there? If it was too thick, it would be a little difficult to gather it like that. But that works for me. Now I'm going to come back in here a little bit and take a couple of stitches. Just go through once, I'll go through another time, and this time I'm going to knot it off. So I'll just go through that loop once, and I'll go through that loop again, and it's knotted off. I have this 9 by 9 inch piece of felt, and we're going to be using this to do our hot glue method. And I also have my strip of green felt, and I am going to be cutting this before I put it on the main piece, because I thought it would be easier to do. So I will cut this and get right back to you. All right, I'm going to run a bead of hot glue down the top of this as quickly as I can so that it will not dry before I put my fringe up here. And then I'm just going to lay this over the top of it, and just like that, press it down, and we're good to go. All right, now I'm going to fold it in half, cut it from the bottom of the fringe to the fold. And there's our carrot. Starting at the bottom, I'm just going to open it up a little and put a bead of glue there. Press it down, and then I'm going to go up here and do the same thing. And I'm doing it in 2 steps like this because it dries so quickly, and I want to make sure it doesn't. All right, there's our shape, and our fringe is already cut out. So now it's time to do the little bit of running stitch around here. Using my hand quilting thread, this is kind of a red one, and doubled up, I'm going to run my stitch right here along where the green meets the orange in long stitches. Taking just a little bit of stuffing, I'm going to put it in here and work it down as far as I can with my fingers, which isn't very far. And I'm going to take my scissors and coax it down into the bottom. There it goes. You can see it moving. Completely stuffed. Get your little fringes out of there. They have a tendency to want to follow the stuffing in. crochet. Grab your needle and thread again. And pull up really tight. Okay, and then you take some good little stitches right in here to hold it all together. But there is your little carrot made out of felt, and I think it's super cute.